The following program paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management. Providing financial advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and Jonathan Eisner. And now from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and thanks for tuning in to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. So if you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation.
Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience and has been serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. And while you're on our site, go to the special reports section where you'll find several reports that are available to you for free. You can also sign up to receive our digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you're in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call, and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group. Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100.
Are you there?
Good morning, everybody. My mic was off. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be back with y'all. And Friday morning was marked with some good news from the Middle East, with news that the Israeli government and Hamas agreed to the hostage release deal, setting a ceasefire deal in Gaza and a step towards peace. And I hope and pray this is the beginning of the end for fighting in that region.
Absolutely. That's caused a lot of tension around the world in the last couple of years, so that was a very good thing to see this week.
Yep.
I want to start out by sharing a great experience that Katie and I had. Last weekend, we were celebrating our 18th anniversary, and Randy, you and Sherry had recommended that we go to a place called Braddock's Cask and Table in downtown Macon. It is on Cotton Avenue, and when I found out the location that you guys were talking about, I have to admit I was a little skeptical, because that particular location has been a lot of different restaurants over the years that unfortunately have not made it. And so my mind just went to assuming this one's going to be the same way. Well, nonetheless, we went and tried it, and I was wrong to assume that. We enjoyed everything about it. The atmosphere made it feel like we were eating at a diner in New York City. We got appetizers, drinks, entrees, dessert, you name it, and all of it was good. Sherry, we talked about this. We get the sense you've talked to them. I think that they're not doing a whole lot of advertising for
Only
themselves.
on Facebook.
Only on Facebook.
And I told them, I said, you need to get with Macon.com and get on that feed that goes out every week.
Right.
Anyways.
I just felt compelled after our experience there to at least put it out here and help them any way I can, because we had a fantastic experience there. The service was great. Food was very good, and we need options in Macon.
We do. We need more to move to that down 2nd Street towards Mulberry.
Yeah.
We do need more down there.
Yep, agreed.
And I would encourage you to give them a try. Jonathan, I agree with you, everything you've said here. What I like about the place is that it's not too loud, and you can have a conversation with the person that you're there with, and without having to strain to talk or listen.
And
right.
To me, the menu is interesting. The options of what you can have is good.
Everything from a lamb chop to a hamburger.
Yeah.
But it's not too big. You're not sitting there having to, sift between 40 different options. It's not that big.
I felt like it was just the right size.
Just the right
There's
size.
probably about 14 different choices on the
I think
entree.
they had it all on one sheet of paper.
They did.
And drinks on the back, meals on the front.
Yep.
So it's good.
Yep.
Braddock's. Give it a try.
Excellent. So forgotten 401k assets hit 2.1 trillion with a T. The number of assets in lost 401k accounts increased 30% to reach a staggering 2.1 trillion, as reported by the analytics firm Capitalize. The firm this week released a report titled The True Cost of Forgotten 401k Accounts in partnership with the Center for Retirement Research. It found a continued growth in the number of misplaced 401k accounts to 31.9 million as of July 2025. Further, the analysis shows continued growth in the number of lost 401k accounts over the years. 3.5 million accounts were left behind in 2023, while 4 million were forgotten in 2024, and they predict 4.2 million to be left behind in 2025. Higher 401k participation rates and ongoing complexity in the 401k rollover process have pushed unrelenting growth in missing retirement accounts. As each 401k provider determines their own process, there's little room for uniformity or standard protocols for transferring retirement assets, which makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't. One example highlights how retirement plan rollovers differ from standard brokerage transfers. While traditional brokerage transfers move securities directly from one brokerage to the other, 401k account assets are completely liquidated first before being transferred out as cash. Each 401k provider determines their own process by which they accept rollover requests, and they can vary widely, and they do. Some of those might be online processes. Some of them might accept paper or phone-based requests. In the absence of standardization, providers often stick with legacy processes. Overlooking or misplacing a retirement account could end up costing a participant up to $500,000 in lost savings. Capitalize noted in its research the average account balance of a lost 401k increased from $56,000 and some change in 2023 to over $66,000 today. And assets left behind from former workers continue to represent nearly 25% of total 401k savings. It's pretty staggering numbers.
Yes.
The analysis also highlights a surge in layoffs among federal government workers, which in recent months has triggered a flow of abandoned retirement accounts. According to the findings, 2.8 million thrift savings plans, or TSPs, those are now expected to be left behind by the end of 2025, a rise of 14% compared to 2024.
Horrible.
The potential inclusion of alternative investments in 401k accounts driven by President Trump's executive order could impact the rollover process too. And that is because of the lack of liquidity with alternative investments, as these funds cannot be sold quickly compared to other assets without these price changes. The research explains that while most investments in 401k assets are priced daily, like stocks, bonds, index funds, and mutual funds, traditional alternative investments are priced quarterly or even annually. So basically, if someone owns a direct interest in an alternative asset, they may not have the same type of liquidity as they do with publicly traded equity, target date funds, or even an ETF. The reason that matters is because 401k accounts are almost always liquidated before being rolled over. So having an illiquid asset could make that process a little bit trickier and time-consuming. In the event of a job change, participants who don't have access to alternative investments in their new plan will be forced to assess what to do with a private equity investment in their 401k. This could also bring on additional learning curves like understanding fees and valuation differences. To address these concerns, we can probably expect to see greater private equity exposure in new target date funds, which could consist of public equity, fixed income, and alternative investments. Offering such funds will provide investors with the liquidity needed when changing jobs. And I think this is something that me and Brandy talked about, was if you have these, this may contribute to them getting left behind, because the liquid ones you can transfer over immediately and you'll say, hey,
that's right,
I'll get back to these other ones later.
And then never get back to them.
Right.
And I believe that's what's going to happen. And then you're going to see more abandoned funds.
That's terrible.
Being left out there. So while several initiatives have sought to reunite participants with lost or forgotten 401k accounts, like the Department of Labor's Lost and Found database, challenges remain in helping participants access and transfer these funds. As a result, more fintech providers are offering services aimed at rolling over legacy 401ks with a digital-first attitude. In March, Capitalize, an investing platform Public, partnered to help customers of Public transfer legacy 401ks to individual retirement accounts on all Public's digital platform. Later in May, the rollover provider collaborated with SoFi in adding 401k consolidation for participants. Moving forward, technology is expected to be the leading driver in the future of 401k account rollovers and consolidations, especially among the private sector workplaces.
The power of the automated 401k plan features. Many Americans are struggling to save for retirement. Despite 65% of workers ranking retirement as a priority, half of U.S. workers in private industry don't actually participate in a workplace retirement plan, which is pretty astounding to me. A comprehensive analysis of Principal data reveals that Principal, as in the mutual fund, the carrier, reveals that automated plan features can fundamentally transform a person's retirement readiness. While these powerful features aren't new, there's a substantial opportunity for broader plan adoption and optimization. Plan sponsor hesitation often stems from thinking employees will push back, yet data shows it typically doesn't occur as expected. And if expenses are a concern, a holistic view is essential, weighing the cost of benefits against the expenses associated with employees unprepared to retire on time. Each feature has a specific purpose, but together can help achieve a trifecta for retirement readiness. The goal of these features, automatic or auto enrollment, gets employees into the plan, auto increase boosts the amount they're saving, and automatic re-enrollment re-engages employees, providing additional opportunities for saving by bringing them back into the plan.
So no matter a retirement plan size, auto enrollment is one of the simplest ways to help get employees to participate and start saving. Plans with auto enrollment have a 37% higher participation rate and are 2 times more likely to have participation rates of 90% or more. As auto enrollment becomes more commonplace, 65% of employees say they now expect this feature when starting a new job. Even more revealing, 59% of non-participants incorrectly thought they were already participating, with 49% of those mistakenly assuming they had been auto-enrolled. And the great news is that 95% of employees remain in the plan when auto-enrolled, which means they're not looking at their paycheck.
That's right.
If you look at your paycheck, you can tell whether money's going into your 401k or not, and so they're just getting paid and assuming something.
Yeah, not the paycheck, but the pay stub.
Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry. Some plan sponsors are concerned that employees will opt out of saving entirely when auto-enrolled. The reality is that most employees not only want the impetus to start saving by repositioning enrollment as an opt-out rather than an opt-in
And that's
decision.
key.
Yes, behavioral inertia becomes an asset rather than an obstacle to getting employees into the plan.
Yeah, setting the default contribution rate for auto enrollment is an important decision with far-reaching implications. Many employees interpret the default rate as a recommendation from their employer, while others don't engage with the plan, leaving their contribution rate at the default rate. Either way, these behaviors underscore the importance of a thoughtful initial default rate. Finding the optimal default contribution rate is possible and typically higher than what most employers think. While most expect that the opt-out would increase with higher default rate, actual behavior tells a more nuanced story. Data shows that 80% of employees do nothing, even at the highest contribution rates. And overall, 93% of those enrolled remain in the plan regardless of the default contribution rate. Of the 95% of employees who remained in the plan, 93% remained at or above the default rate, while 2% remained in the plan but at a rate below the default rate. Automated features leverage behavioral finance to help overcome participant objections. Small adjustments in how decisions are presented can lead to significant changes in behavior and acceptance of the program. People often prefer to stick with the default options, either because of habit, procrastination, or the belief that the preset choice is the best. Once enrolled, contribution patterns tend to stay, making initial settings especially important.
For employers, here are some considerations for implementing automated features. Number 1, set a meaningful default contribution rate. Data shows that 93+% of enrolled participants remain in the plan, even at higher default rates of 7% or more. Number 2, implement auto increase with the right cap. Setting the cap at 15% helps get employees to a more realistic income replacement percentage in retirement. Number 3, use automatic annual re-enrollment to bring eligible non-participating or under-contributing employees back into the plan. Number 4, personalize messages and communicate often throughout the year across multiple channels to reinforce engagement. And 5, amplify retirement benefits during onboarding, performance review season, and the benefits election period.
Saving for retirement takes time and dedication. Employees who haven't saved enough throughout their career may end up delaying retirement. Without strong plan design to encourage savings, more employees will likely be unprepared for retirement. Here's what I would like to know. Are the employers automatically placing them into an investment fund that aligns with their tentative retirement date, like a 2060 fund? I sure hope so, because I don't know what they're automatically putting these people into if they're automatically enrolling them and they don't even know what they're doing.
this is where employees need to get involved in
Yes.
this a little bit more. And
Paying attention.
So that they pay attention. Exactly right. So if they're put into a target date fund, I think employees need to understand what that means and go look it up, and then go look up,
The returns.
the fund carrier, and then see what they are invested in.
Yep.
So, all right, let's talk about old savings bonds. All right, if you have an old paper savings bond, here's how to turn them into cash. According to the Treasury Department, Americans are sitting on more than $39 billion worth of matured but unredeemed U.S. savings bonds, but cashing them in isn't as simple as it once was. Electronic savings bonds automatically redeem upon maturity, but paper bonds require effort. Banks remain the primary method of cashing in bonds, including the popular 30-year savings, 30-year Series EE bond, with about 80% of all bonds now redeemed at banks. But due to fraud concerns, many banks have revised their policies to make it tougher for newer or non-customers to make the redemptions. What's more, many banks impose limits on the amount of bonds that can be cashed at one time.
The other option for cashing in paper bonds, mailing them directly to the Treasury, also has become more difficult, as the Treasury section that oversees saving bonds was downsized in the Government Efficiency Initiative, so you can expect delays, especially when it comes to consumer service issues like lost bonds or redeeming on behalf of another person. The agency also has warned of potential delays amid a consumer service deluge stemming from the recent popularity of I-bonds. That's the inflation-adjusted savings bonds.
With less Treasury people around and less banks willing to bother with it, it definitely will be harder to cash these in, but it still can be done.
Yep, and here's how it's done. Via your bank, first start locally, but don't just show up with the bonds in hands. You'll want to call ahead first because the bank might not cash in the savings bonds, or the signature guarantee person might not be there, and that's just to name a few of the reasons that calling first is always a good idea. And bank policies vary, and many of the largest institutions have added restrictions and in the past few years surrounding savings bonds and redemptions. And it helps to be a bank customer, especially a long-term one. And in some cases, not only do you have to be a customer, but you have to be an established customer. According to a 2022 Treasury Guide for Financial Institutions, the federal government requires that banks cash savings bonds for an established account holder, and that generally means that the account must be at least a year old, and the account holder has proper identification and, quote, quote, who seems to be worthy of trust, whatever that means.
Yeah, but cashing them in is optional for newer customers or people without accounts. That's different from the previous guidance, which required cashing eligible bonds for any customer with proper identification. Finding information on the rules isn't always easy. Some banks don't clearly state their policies online, and others simply direct people to the Treasury for their redemptions. For instance, JPMorgan Chase says that Chase customers with an account open for at least a year can cash savings bonds with a face value of $200 or less, and a redemption value of $500 or less per bond. At Bank of America, people can cash up to 30 eligible paper savings bonds on site at a time, but only if they have an active account that has been open at least 2 years. If they have more than 30 bonds, the bank sends them to an off-site bank team for processing. Wells Fargo and Citigroup also cash paper bonds for customers. Those at Wells Fargo with an account open and active more than a year can redeem an unlimited amount, and customers for less than a year can redeem up to $1,000 a day. Similarly, Citi clients with a tenured account face no redemption limit, while new clients are more restricted. Citi declined to elaborate on what tenured means, citing fraud concerns, but they said that customers can ask for more details at their local branches.
Redemption via the Treasury. If you don't qualify under bank rules, redeeming directly from the Treasury is the best option. However, this process can seem arduous, and it can be nerve-wracking to put the equivalent of potentially thousands of dollars in the mail. It's a laborious process because you must create a manifest of all of your bonds, and you then mail them to the Treasury for processing. And right now, that is probably the scariest part. Then you wait, and literally nothing will happen for many months. To mail to the Treasury, you fill out FS Form 1522, which is available on the Treasury Direct website. The form has you list your bonds, including issue dates and serial numbers, provide direct deposit information, and sign. If the redemption value totals more than $1,000, you must have your identity verified and sign the form in the presence of a notary or authorized certified officer, which is a good idea.
The Treasury doesn't provide guidance on whether to insure the mail, but it does recommend keeping copies of bonds, presumably in the case that they're lost or another issue arises. I would suggest making a copy of every bond you send as well as the form. Using a USPS certified and insured program like Priority Mail to cover a portion of the package in case it is lost. Keeping records of what is shipped will enable you to get them replaced through the Federal Reserve, provided you have the documentation. Cashing paper bonds under your name and mailed properly with the form takes at least 2 weeks to process. For more complicated inquiries, or if something goes wrong, help can take much longer, at least 6 weeks for bond transactions not in your name, and at least 4 months for dealing with lost, stolen, or missing bonds.
Yeah, downsizing at the Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service, which oversees savings bonds, could extend those wait times. Fiscal Service Office previously outsourced bond processing, but handled customer service in-house. So that operation could take the biggest hit. That could affect operations like trying to redeem a bond for a deceased family member or trying to get a lost bond reissued. It seems to me that these bonds should show up in the lost funds database if they have matured but not yet redeemed. A lot of these bonds could have simply been lost because people are terrible at placing them in a safe and secure place so that their heirs can locate them.
Oh, they hide them under their mattress and all sorts of stuff.
Back when my grandparents, we used to find them in the Bibles.
Yes.
People would put them in there, and then so you got to check it all kinds of places when you are going through your family's belongings.
I would bet you that there's a whole bunch of these that have gone into the trash, the dumpster, and that's why they're outstanding. It's
that's
not
right.
because people aren't doing anything. It's because they threw them out because they thought it was a bunch of trash. Like Randy's grandparents that he was talking about, they kept every card they ever received from anybody in their entire life.
That's right.
Their entire house was so piled with stuff you could hardly walk through it. It was 3 stories. It was a basement, first floor, second floor, piled high with they never threw anything away.
Terrible.
Oh my! And they had a garage that was cram-packed and like 3 mobile homes that were cram-packed.
Like 11 outbuildings cram-packed.
Jeez.
So going through all of that is exhausting, and I'll bet you that some people just call somebody and say, "Hey, get rid of all this trash and dump them all out." I would bet a lot of this is already just gone.
Yep.
That's sad.
Sure enough.
So talk to your family about this and see who has savings bonds. Are they matured? What do they need to do about them? I mean, does anybody even know that they have them? I mean, that's the problem. We don't talk enough about this kind of stuff because we don't want to intervene, or we don't want to
don't want to be nosy.
We don't want to be intrusive. So you need to be intrusive on this one and find out who has what.
Or just simply, like I had a client who came in this week that had a bag full of about $20,000 worth of double E bonds. And she just has been sitting on them for years because she just doesn't even know how to redeem them. She's got other money, so it hasn't been a concern for her.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, people probably just don't even know how to go redeem paper bonds anymore. So I was really glad we put this out here this week and I called her.
Okay.
And I said, hey, we just found this information. You should be able to go to Robbins Financial Credit Union and redeem these, but you need to call them first, like this was saying to do.
Yep. Just
in case they don't, or in case the signature guarantee person's not there. So she was very appreciative.
Oh, fantastic.
But she's just been sitting on them. She's just been sitting on them because she didn't know how to.
I would bet you there's a bunch of that going on.
I bet there is.
My neighbor, when I was growing up, every year she would give us $100 double E savings bond since I was a kid. So we had my brother, my sister, and myself, we all had a stack of these savings bonds, that my parents would put into the safe or safety deposit box. And when we got to be 16, 17 years old, we got a handful of them. So, and then we cashed them all in. So,
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right. Patients are diagnosing themselves with home test devices and chatbots. I am seeing this in my office.
Yep.
Healthcare is fast becoming a do-it-yourself project for patients. With a shortage of doctors, long wait times for appointments, and an increasing prevalence of chronic diseases such as diabetes earlier in adulthood, patients are taking a more active role in managing their own health. Similar to the way workers who once depended on employers to oversee their retirement pensions were handed the reins with 401k plans, patients are shouldering responsibility for diagnosing their own symptoms, tracking their own medical data, and even ordering their own lab tests. The challenges aren't unlike those of managing one's own financial portfolio, vetting sources of information, evaluating new products, and making informed decisions about complex topics. In today's fast-evolving healthcare landscape, AI and other new technologies and services are emerging to help patients find and act on medical information. I am seeing this in my office.
Yep. Dr. Tom DeBlanco, a professor at Harvard Medical School whose focus is primary care, says that the DIY health trend brings risk like relying on diagnostic and treatment information that hasn't been reviewed by a clinician. However, he also sees significant benefits. He says the evidence shows that the more a patient gets involved in their own care, the better the outcomes, and that is the future. Primary care doctors could act as expert consultants rather than paternalistic bosses to the patients. Here are some of the most important developments shaping the new patient's paradigm and precautions that come from using them. I was speaking with my mom last night about this very issue, and she was just leaving the hospital, and her husband was admitted with a heart issue. And 2 weeks ago, he underwent a heart cath. Heart cath procedure, and he had still not heard back from anyone on the results of the cath. And this is a sort of lack of communication between the doctor's offices and the patient that makes more people want to resort to this sort of self-help that we're talking about in this article. So now you can order your own test. Companies that process lab tests for doctors like LabCorp and Quest Diagnostics have been expanding the range of tests that they offer directly to the customers or consumers. Quest, for instance, offers more than 150 tests ranging from $29 for a complete blood count, which helps identify anemia and other blood disorders, to specific blood tests for micronutrient deficiencies and tests for several sexually transmitted diseases. The tests aren't covered by insurance, but some may be eligible for special account using pre-tax money to pay for health costs.
Quest says among its most popular tests is a $385 comprehensive health profile that analyzes more than 75 markers, including those related to heart, kidney, and liver health, as well as diabetes risk. It includes an evaluation taking in family history, lifestyle, and wellness behaviors, and creates a health risk score ranging from 1 to 100. Most blood tests involve drawing blood at a Quest service center, but consumers can also pay $79 for an in-home appointment from a mobile phlebotomist in some markets.
That's cheap.
I think so, too.
$79 for go to your house?
A Quest spokesperson said the company is responding to demand by patients who want to be more involved in their care and control over their own data. The Quest contracts with physicians who must review and approve orders, and are also available to consult on the results. With a shortage of both primary care doctors and specialists, the consumer-ordered tests can help identify those most in need of follow-up and identify red flags early. Both LabCorp and Quest encourage patients to follow up with their own physician to review results and determine any next steps. More companies are offering wellness plans and supplements directly to consumers based on data from blood tests, DNA analysis, and data from wearable devices. A 2023 study of 21 companies that offer a direct-to-consumer tests cautioned that the trend raises ethical issues, including the use of personal data and the potential lack of follow-up for abnormal results.
Anna Wexler, an author of the study and assistant professor of medical ethics and health policy, says consumers should stick to tests that have been shown to give reliable results. Tests that claim to estimate biological age, identify food sensitivities, and predict fertility, for example, often don't meet validated clinical standards and may mislead consumers or lead them to buy products that they don't need. I will just throw in my own personal experience with this. My doctor referred me to a specialist a month ago, and they won't return my calls, and they will not make an appointment with me. They don't have time. I mean, I'm seeing this and I'm hearing this. I had a client, and then my other regular person that I have to see once a year because I'm a woman, they bumped me out 2 more months without any reason for it. And I'm seeing clients that are calling their doctors and they have serious physical problems, and they're getting no support, no referrals, no nothing. The doctor won't even call them back. I mean, they're
overwhelmed.
They're overwhelmed, and there's a shortage, and it's just a big mess.
Right.
Big time.
All right, so let's move on to wearables and devices. Technology is growing beyond the already popular use of smartphones and smartwatches to track steps per day, sleep quality, or heart health. Roughly 2/3 of respondents in a recent survey of 1,653 adults said they use such apps to track health information. Patients with atrial fibrillation can now track their heart rhythm with the do-it-yourself electrocardiogram on devices that interface with smartphone apps and range from $79 to $129. New devices can screen for sleep apnea, measure blood pressure without arm cuffs, or detect early signs of illness. In developments are smart mirrors, which I think is pretty cool, that use sensors that display and software to monitor changes in appearance, mood, or vital signs while the patients are brushing their teeth and getting ready for the day. A client of ours came in to sign paperwork yesterday, and I asked her how she was doing, and she said she felt fine, but her smartwatch told her she had AFib. Then she called her doctor, and she went to see him, and the doctor confirmed that she was an AFib and put her on a blood thinner, possibly preventing a stroke, according to her.
Yeah.
That was just yesterday.
Pretty cool. Data privacy is a concern. In one study by UK researchers, participants with health conditions like MS and stroke said they'd be interested in a smart mirror that would help them manage their symptoms and offer support if they had control over who used the data. Devices are becoming better at not only tracking symptoms but predicting their onset. For patients with respiratory diseases like asthma, researchers at Georgia Tech used AI to develop a wearable patch with a seismometer microchip that can detect tiny vibrations or wheezing sounds that could signal the need for treatment. Studies by the Georgia Tech group, including one published in March in the journal Nature, showed it to be highly accurate. Such patches could be used for home monitoring by transmitting data to the patient's doctor. A spinoff from the university is commercializing the patch with federal funding. That could be big.
Yeah.
Right? A special home phototherapy device to treat psoriasis is as effective as going to a doctor's office for the therapy, according to research funded by the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. Patients also use the treatment more consistently and at fewer indirect costs such as travel and time off from work. Some insurers are already covering the home treatment, and the National Psoriasis Foundation, a collaborator on the study, is supporting expanded coverage.
The AI chatbot. Both patients and caregivers are turning to ChatGPT and other AI chatbots to help diagnose symptoms, manage chronic diseases, and get advice on exercise and nutrition and research treatment for serious or rare diseases. AI doesn't care how many questions you ask. It can provide expertise and translate the medical jargon, and your time is not up after 15 or 20 minutes. Says Laura Adams, a sensory advisor at the National Academy of Medicine and the co-author of a recent report on the use of AI health tools. Consumers don't always find AI health information reliable, leading some healthcare providers to develop their own AI tools for their patient portals. In a report published in the New England Journal of Medicine's warned of and I quote, an urgent need to assist patients with using these new technologies as safely and efficiently as possible, citing concerns about misinformation, lack of regulation, data privacy risk, and insufficient research on the actual benefits and harms of patient use of AI. However, Adams notes, patients are saying, look, if I have to wait 6 weeks to see a specialist to get answers about this, that is a safety risk as well.
Hugo Campos, who lives with an implanted cardiac device and has served on health-related federal advisory boards as a patient advocate, says that he uses AI extensively to research health issues. He advises patients to formulate clear questions, provide all the relevant context about their condition, and request different possible diagnoses rather than a single answer. AI is not a one-and-done answer machine, Campos says. It's a partner and a tool for helping advance your ability to comprehend things and think critically through a complex problem. Some patient advocates and medical experts predict AI chatbots will evolve into more sophisticated healthcare agents, coaching behavior, organizing data, and even working with clinicians to monitor patients. AI is also being explored for use in online patient communities to help members better analyze their own data, find the right care, and collaborate more efficiently.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, so rising fees force premium credit card holders to choose sides. For nearly a decade, Jeff Brenner carried 2 premium credit cards without giving much thought up to fees. Then in June, J.P. Morgan Chase raised the annual cost of his Sapphire Reserve card by 45% to $795, and American Express teased something similar on his Platinum card. Like many frequent travelers, he still wanted to keep a premium card for lounge access, but he couldn't justify having 2. So, the 62-year-old from Arizona made a spreadsheet comparing the perks he was getting on each card against his own spending.
Well, the choice was clear. Get rid of the Platinum card before his annual fee goes up to 29%, goes up 29% to $895 next year, and shift most of his estimated $8,000 to $10,000 in monthly spending to his Sapphire Reserve. The refreshed premium card rolled out over the past few months by the likes of Chase and Amex are prompting a reshuffling amongst the affluent consumers. Many with multiple high-fee cards are choosing one and shifting their spending accordingly. They don't want to pay more than $1,000 in annual fees, only to receive 2 sets of complex perks that require meticulous tracking. For card issuers that earn interchange fees with every swipe, it means a race to become the one card that high-spending, low-risk consumers can't live without. People who pay more than $250 a year in credit card annual fees make up less than 15% of all card holders, according to the Bank of America. But they are sought after because they tend to be bigger spenders, driving a significant share of the consumption that fuels the American economy.
Cardholders with annual fees above $500 spend on average $2,736 a month, nearly 3 times as much as those with cheaper cards, according to J.D. Power. What's more, only about a quarter of those carry debt from month to month, making them less risky than lower-fee cardholders. The average American sees a $600 or $800 annual fee and just says no right off the bat. But that's not what these cards are for, says Matt Schultz, chief credit analyst at LendingTree. Issuers are sending more aggressive offers to affluent Americans in hopes of locking in their loyalty. Over the years, Michael Keir's mailbox has been stuffed with offers promising generous sign-on bonuses and exclusive perks, and that's how he wound up carrying both the American Express Platinum and the Delta SkyMiles Platinum Amex cards. But when the rising fees pushed him to scrutinize his wallet, he noticed his 2 cards overlapped on several benefits, including credits for TSA PreCheck and baggage fees. He figured he was effectively paying for those perks twice. His $350 a year Delta card didn't include lounge access, his most valued perk. But by upgrading to the $650 Delta SkyMiles Reserve Amex card, he could access Delta's network of lounges. So he upgraded to the Delta card and dropped the non-airline Platinum.
This guy must travel a lot.
Right.
Yep.
A third of the people who use travel rewards tracking site Points.me have 2 or more cards with an annual fee of over $150. Analysts expect the higher fees to benefit issuers overall. Issuers, not customers, that says. Bank of America data shows Amex's retention rates improve after fee hikes, despite initial investor concerns. J.D. Power surveys also suggest that while high-fee cardholders are less satisfied with the reasonableness of their annual fee, they report higher overall satisfaction with their cards than peers with cheaper or no-fee products. Though many cardholders bristled when Amex announced last month it was raising the annual fee on the Platinum by $200, several said they appreciated the added rewards, like the $600 hotel credit or the $400 dining credit. After reviewing the new rewards, Steve Hunley, a retired consultant from St. Louis, decided to close his Citi AA Advantage Executive World Elite MasterCard. Man, that's a mouthful.
Right?
Mouthful for one credit card. Just drop it for that reason alone. That card costs him $770 a year, including a fee for adding authorized users. He decided to focus on getting the most out of the Amex Platinum card that he's had since 2006. I hated the fee increase, he said, about the Amex, but I did like the extra benefits.
Issuers also have plenty of tools to keep customers from walking away. Before canceling, some customers asked to have the annual fee reduced or waived. LendingTree's Schultz said, roughly 95% of cardholders who make such requests get their way, according to a survey found earlier this year. That is what happened to Felix Baum, a 35-year-old professor at the University of Indianapolis. After Amex announced the Platinum fee increase, he figured it made sense to cancel his $325 a year Amex Gold card and concentrate on the pricier option. But when he called, customer service offered him a deal he couldn't refuse, a $200 statement credit in exchange for spending $2,000 within 3 months, effectively reducing the fee on the Gold card to $125. He decided to keep the card for now. I plan on calling them back to cancel in a year again, Baum says. Smart guy.
Right.
There's a lot of people that you can call and threaten to cancel, and they'll work with you on things.
I did the same thing, but only with Verizon yesterday, and ended up saving about $500 a year.
Really?
Yep.
You'll have to tell me your secrets after we get off.
I'll probably put it in the radio show for next week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would appreciate that. All right, so Sharpie, I love this article. Sharpie found a way to make pens more cheaply, and that is by manufacturing them right here in the United States.
Shocker.
Yeah, tucked in the foothills of Tennessee's Smoky Mountains is a factory that has figured out a way to manufacture in America that's cheaper, quicker, and better. It's the home of the famous American writing implement, the Sharpie. Pen barrels whirl along automated assembly lines that rapidly fill them with ink. At least 500 million Sharpie markers are churned out here every year, one made of 6 parts. Each one has 6 parts. Only the felt tip of those 6 parts is imported, and it's imported from Japan. It didn't used to be this way. Back in 2018, many Sharpies were made abroad. That's when Chris Peterson, who was the CFO of Sharpie maker Newell Brands, challenged his team to answer a question. How could they keep Newell from becoming obsolete compared with factories in Asia? Peterson felt like Sharpie had an opportunity to dramatically improve its U.S. manufacturing. Peterson is now the CEO. In these days, most Sharpies, in all 93 colors, are made at this 37-year-old factory. Newell did it without reducing the employee count and without raising prices. But to get to this place took close to $2 billion in investments across the company, thousands of hours of training, and a total overhaul of the production process.
Yeah, the result is a playbook for making low-cost, high-volume products domestically, albeit one that requires long-term planning and a lot of investment. President Trump, who uses a custom Sharpie, has slapped high tariffs on many imports with the goal of promoting more companies to do what Newell has done and bring manufacturing back to the United States. But Filippo Falorni, an analyst at Citi, says that few companies in the sector have the resources to replicate Newell's move. Even after the Trump administration implemented new tariffs this year, employment in the manufacturing sector has continued to fall, sliding 0.6% in the 12 months ending in August, according to the Labor Department, in part because of automation is replacing jobs.
Newell began moving some Sharpie production to China in the 2000s, part of the wave of outsourcing by U.S. companies looking to save costs. By the time Peterson started his project in Maryville in 2018, the company had moved some of that production back to the U.S., but production rates for Sharpies here were slow compared with competitor products made abroad. And because Newell had acquired so many companies, all with different supply chains, retailers found the company difficult to work with. Peterson's proposal was to centralize Newell's supply chain and operations and look for more opportunities to manufacture in America. When the marketing department proposed that Sharpie make a new gel pen, Peterson pressed the team to ditch plans to outsource abroad. His thinking was, can we make it in Maryville?
There was a list of challenges. The facility needed to add new capabilities to do things such as make the ink refills for the gel pens. The manufacturing process, which involves making more parts than a traditional sharpening marker, required new equipment and more training. And the company needed to reduce the turnover rate for manual jobs, such as packing. Peterson, who spent 20 years at consumer giant Procter & Gamble, found that the factory could use robots to do an increased share of the packing. But he decided to keep the employees who knew the company and convert their jobs to roles such as automation engineering. In that case, an employee would fix a robot instead of packing a box. To do that, Peterson bolstered a career training program so existing employees could get the support needed for the new jobs.
That's what happened to Mike Newcomb. Newcomb joined the company 20 years ago as a packer of chair mats, which the facility made at that time. He took on new roles as the years went by. When he reached a point where he wanted a leadership position, Newell's Human Resources Department said the company would give him the job, but he would need an undergraduate degree, the cost of which the company would cover. Newcomb obtained a business degree from a local college and now leads the molding department, overseeing production of the 4.3 billion pen barrels and caps the facility makes every year. Peterson estimates the average wage at its Maryville facility, which employs 550 staff, has gone up some 50% over the past 5 years, without a change in headcount. With additional investments in robots and training, the factory's been able to make pens at 3 to 4 times its previous speed. The quality is better also.
That's amazing.
Oh, last year when Newell brought production of its retractable Sharpie back from China, engineers spent months designing the robotic system that turns barrels and clickers into fully assembled markers. Technicians figured out how to stop them from drying out, a problem that had plagued the version made in China, by sealing the internal chamber of the pen. Now, a vision robot scans for errors in the text printed on the marker barrel, while workers oversee production and troubleshoot issues. Newell's investments over the last 5 years have allowed it to offset inflation by lowering production costs and avoid raising Sharpie's prices. A typical Sharpie marker retails for about $1 a piece when sold in a pack. The shift to the United States has also allowed the company to fulfill customer orders more quickly and reduce shipping costs. And if you walk into the Maryville factory floor today, you'll hear the click-clack sounds of Sharpie barrels and caps being loaded on assembly lines. Workers drive forklifts to transport giant barrels of ink, while smaller robots deliver components like resin to production and assembly areas.
There are marked squares all over the factory floor to delineate space for more lines to shift to America, such as Sharpie's Clearview highlighter. It will move back from China in coming months. The factory operates around the clock, making 1.8 million fine-tip Sharpies a day. It's funny because I just was using one this morning. I didn't even think about this article. It's really night and day compared to when I first joined, Peterson said. There's no longer a reason to manufacture Sharpies outside the U.S.
You know, I never knew Sharpie made 93 different colors.
Yeah, me neither.
I haven't seen that at a store ever.
Ever.
Oh, I didn't know there were 93 different colors,
I didn't
period. I love this because this is pointing out that this took years.
Yes.
This took years for them to get this. I mean, everything used to be, done overseas, China, wherever, Japan, that is still a little bit of it done. But it took them years from 2018 to now to get it, and they're still working on it.
And the people are making 50% more money.
Right.
Being here.
The employees are making good money.
And I like the fact that they're not the only ones who have done this, but I like the fact that the company went on the project or with the mission of converting the existing jobs into new jobs, so that they weren't put out of
keeping the people.
Keeping the people, yeah.
And that's what's going to happen everywhere.
I think so too. They're going to have to do it that way.
I just want to add this because the tariffs have been a big deal this year, right? And I'm not giving an opinion one way or the other on them, but I always felt like, and I don't think Trump has specifically said this enough, if this is the intention, but it was always the long play. It was never, hey, we're going to put these tariffs in place and then next week everything's going to be,
that's right,
or next month. It's always the long play. It was never going to happen overnight for us to get jobs here, people to be satisfied here.
And if anybody thought it was a short play, they're they're not thinking
reading
rational.
it wrong.
Yeah.
You're reading it wrong. So this is a great example of it taking 6, 7, 8 years for them to ultimately do what they wanted to do, and they didn't have to raise prices on the consumer.
And they're all doing better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Pretty awesome.
Well said. All right, let's talk about America, and we keep adding EV chargers, but will there be more drivers to use them? It's getting easier to find EV chargers in the United States, just as the market for electric vehicles hits the skids. The long-beleaguered business of charging battery-powered cars is maturing after a 2-year construction spree. The number of fast charging ports that is those that can repower a battery in 20 minutes to an hour rose more than 80% in the 2 years that ended in August to more than 60,300, according to data from the Department of Transportation. The pace of that build-out has accelerated of late. The U.S. added more than 7,000 fast chargers in the first half of the year, up 18% from the same period last year.
The timing is a little bit ironic. EV sales are expected to plunge following the recent expiration of a $7,500 federal tax credit that boosted the number of battery-powered cars on the road. The charging industry is really maturing at a time when the rest of the EV industry is in a period of uncertainty, said Nick Nigro, Nigro, I don't know how else to say it, founder of Atlas Public Policy, a data and policy research firm. American automakers are backpedaling on ambitious EV plans after the Trump administration and Congress set out to eliminate regulations that they said were designed to mandate battery-powered vehicles. Detroit car makers are picking up the banner and touting plans to keep selling big gas-powered vehicles for the foreseeable future. EV sales likely peaked around 410,000 in the most recent quarter, which was up 21% from a year earlier, as buyers race to lock in the tax credit that just expired. She projects, this is Cox, Stephanie Valdez-Streety at Cox Automotive. She projects sales to slow to about $300,000 in the current quarter without the tax incentive.
A dearth of public charging stations has long considered a stumbling block for persuading more drivers to embrace EVs. The U.S. has had fewer than 20,000 fast charging ports 4 years ago, most of them only compatible with Teslas. Finding a reliable charger outside that network was something of an Easter egg hunt. Even if drivers located the equipment, which was often hiding in the far corners of retail parking lots, it sometimes failed. The 2021 federal infrastructure law poured billions of dollars into developing a national highway charging network. The rollout began slowly, though, and states have spent about $560 million of the $3.3 billion available. It makes you wonder what they're going to do with the rest of that money. If it's only accessible to do that and nobody wants charging stations. I mean, look at downtown Macon, just down the street from where we live. I mean, they've all been ripped out of the ground. All the Tesla chargers are
Really?
like 6 or they're gone. There's one
well,
charger.
If it's government funding that was earmarked for that, and it doesn't get claimed and used, then it will expire, and then it will go back into the U.S. Treasury.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's not the worst thing.
that's
No.
not the worst thing. No.
Anyways, so the 2021 federal infrastructure law poured billions of dollars. Yeah, I went back too far. The Trump administration halted the program earlier this year. Sorry about that, but I got distracted. But it has since restarted. Private sector companies, meanwhile, have announced about $9.5 billion in spending on fast charging for passenger cars since October 23.
Now charging has become a more visible business, with more emphasis on adding fast systems that are conducive of road trips. Large gas stations, travel centers, retailers such as Walmart, and automakers beyond Tesla have invested. Tesla has even opened up stations to drivers of other vehicles. Charging deserts have become more rare, said Brett Gruber, an executive director of electric vehicles practice at research firm J.D. Power. But range anxiety, the fear of running out of battery while traveling long distances, remains a problem. The lack of public charging availability, or the perceived lack of public charging availability, is consistently the number one reason people tell us why they're rejecting EVs or wouldn't even consider buying an electric vehicle, said Gruber.
Yep. Reliability is improving, though. The number of EV owners who visited a charger and couldn't get it to work dropped to 14% in the second quarter. That share had been hovering around 20% for the last 3 years. Better equipment and larger sites with more charging ports have helped. The experience is still frustrating for some drivers, though. A recent industry study led by Charger Help found that only 71% of the charging attempts succeeded on the first try, even though more than 90% of the stations reported being in working order. New stations have averaged an 85% success rate, but performance dropped sharply by year 3. Unlike mechanical gasoline pumps, chargers and EVs must communicate to start a session. Connections can also break down between the charger and the network or payment system, or because of bad cell service. Software updates are another issue that can cause issues. Drivers are forced to troubleshoot by repeatedly unplugging and replugging the connector, and forced to try different payment methods and even move to a different charger.
That sounds like so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Bob Barossa, president and CEO of EV charging provider Electrify America, said his company spent much of the last 2 years replacing older equipment and has been increasing the size of its stations. He says demand has been huge, especially in places like California. Everything is now going to 10 and 20 stalls and bigger. I guess the big difference there is that gas pumps and the electrical chargers is more mechanical versus computer. One is going to just require constant updates to remain current, and that would be the electrical charging stations.
But anyway, it makes me think about that truck that we had. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Exactly. Yep, we're at the end of the show, and we appreciate everyone for tuning in and taking time out of your Saturday.
Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact our office at 478-922-8100 to set up a free consultation. You can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. If you have a question or topic you'd like for us to address in a future broadcast, email Randy at rfmoney.com. We look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.